This is the 2026 series of the BioFutures in Conversation, in which I invite what I think are some of the most exciting minds working in biomaterials, in biodesign, in biofabrication, and more to join a conversation where we explore the challenges of our work, the opportunities of our work, why we do, what we hope for, and so on and so forth. And the reason that it's kicking off today is it's World Futures Day. So all around the world today, starting off in Asia, ending in Hawaii, there are multiple conversations rolling out between futurists and future thinkers. So simply had to make this the day that we kicked off. And Sam, you had to be the woman we started this with. Such a pleasure. So Sam, I thought some of our audience, I know, are going to know your work, know you very well, but not everyone will. So I thought if you could just give a little bit of an introduction as to who you are and what you do.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks so much for asking for me to join you today. This is brilliant. So my name's Sam Mureau, and I'm the founder of Planet of the Grapes. Planet of the Grapes is a biomaterials business working effectively with grape-waste. That's the agricultural waste from my local vineyards, because I'm really lucky to be living on a wonderful wine route down in Provence in the south of France. So I think that's a good little start to get into, just to set the setting of the scene.
Wonderful. But this, like many people in this arena, it's not where you started. Well, I know a swathe of your career was spent in the cut and the thrust of the fashion industry. Tell us about the beginnings of your career.
Yes. Yeah. Well, okay. So just to clarify, I've got a French surname, Mureau, and that's because I'm married to a French man. But I'm actually a Londoner. So I grew up in London, born and bred, and kind of in the 70s, 80s was living London, 90s. So I was just kind of immersed in the world of different fashions, different influences, music influences, cultural influences, and that all kind of, I guess, has had a huge influence on my life. Kind of going to the V&A, the Victoria and Albert Museum, which is renowned for its incredible textiles and fashion. So that's always been around me. And I kind of, even before work experience you had to do nowadays, we didn't have to do it, but I kind of wanted to find out what was out there. So I did a bit of work experience in fashion PR. I was working, which is quite crazy now. We were talking about it the other day with Lynn Franks, who was the
One of the
original kind of got
icons.
going exactly for like London Fashion Week. It was brilliant times.
Yeah.
That, and then eventually I was always like working in shops, in jigsaw. So I always had my fingers in it. And then I got my first actual career job at Topshop. Now,
Brilliant. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And Topshop at the time, it was kind of Topshop, a bit like that. And then
Yeah.
we were there, we were under the reign of Jane Shepherdson. And we set up this, what became like essentially Destination Emporium on Oxford Street, the
I
two on
remember it
full
well.
flagship store. And that kind of kicked off. It was amazing times. So it was, I was buying denim, so we were customizing denim, and then jersey tops, knit tops, and then on to vintage. We're bringing vintage from Portobello Road. So I was scouting designers and thrifters from Portobello Road, from Spitalfields, bringing them in, bringing young designers in, range planning with them. We're getting them to bring in their sewing machines during like half terms and customized clothes that you could buy in Topshop. So it was creative. It was really, really wonderful. And of course, the retail landscape was totally different. There wasn't H&M everywhere, Zara everywhere. It was a different world. And Topshop, we really were setting those trends. They even had a London Fashion Week Topshop catwalks.
You did.
And in stores as well. So it's brilliant.
Yes. And I remember, because I was working just up the road from you, our paths would have crossed for sure, because I was working in the Debenhams buying department on casual wear. So we would go to the same events.
Yes.
And I remember that both of the retailers we worked for at that time, it was we took them from, the teams that were working in that took them from having no cred to being an epicenter of creativity. And I do remember that Topshop literally went from, not cool to having Kate Moss involved. And it was great. I mean, you had like, multiple boutiques, didn't you, in the store, the flagship store on Oxford Street?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I was selecting a lot of those and working. So we'd have like someone called Paul's Boutique who'd be doing army jackets, all customized, all wonderful for us. And then he'd be going under a different label down at Selfridges. So
Yeah.
it was all a real mix. And it was just such a hub of creativity. And it meant just kind of, again, immersing yourself in that. Kind of when you're on the tube going to work, what were you seeing? Who is wearing what? We're taking photos of people on the street, going to all the clubs.
Yeah.
It was,
Trend reports,
festivals, trend
retail
reports.
absolutely.
So
It
that
was
was
a really
brilliant.
exciting time. And I mean, the reason I'm bringing this up is because it's contextualizing the culture in which you learnt really
Yeah,
the ropes of how the fashion industry
yeah,
works. And a lot of what we see today and many people take for granted, it wasn't around before this period. And London was rocking, wasn't it? It really was the epicenter of new and original design. And that came about because of a number of different things. And so
absolutely. Yeah,
obviously, like me, there were many great things about that time, of which just how creative it was is definitely one, and the fact there was a lot of innovation. But I remember the fact that there was a lot of waste. This was when fast fashion really started to come in, didn't it? We're pre-Mark here, but it was, we were starting to see the pace quicken in terms of the consumption. And I remember
yes, yeah,
working
yeah.
in buying as you would, there was a lot of if you like, psychology behind the sales strategies, things like two for the price of one and various other things to make people essentially to buy quickly in the moment rather than really think about it. And that was very much developing in that period. And so that's leading into waste and material waste and the shifts that we've seen. So when, in your mind, having come from that, background, London at that time, when did you start to think about the fact that a lot of garments were ending up on landfill and the supply chains?
It's really funny because those times, I mean, again, just to set the real kind of timing of it all right, we were faxing. So,
Yeah.
because we're going to go to
We
fax, there
dreamed of
you go. That's
mobiles.
what we were doing. We were faxing our first orders to the Far East.
Yes.
We were still working with UK suppliers in Lancashire. We were still working with cotton suppliers in Greece. Starting to look at India for some of the other departments like knitwear. So it's really new. This whole conversation of waste was not on our radar quite yet.
No.
So I think that was quite interesting. And when we were doing like fits, so that meant as a buyer, I mean, when I was there, we didn't really even have a design team. We only had like 2 or 3 people just starting. So you had to get everything, your ideas, um, down on paper, cut across to a supplier. They made those items. You're then trying them on the fit models with your technologists, fitting in kind of the shoulders, the puffs, the pockets. Um, Doing fits, and eventually we get to production and it would come into the store. And during that time, I suppose when the internet started to come in, there was this whole like, internet? Well, no, people want to go to the stores, they want to experience things. How can you talk
Yeah.
about the internet? You've got to touch, you've got to feel. Well, that's when a lot of the team went off and they went off and set up ASOS. So this is kind of where we could really see it starting to happen. And it just happened as well in the fit sessions. It'd be like, well, maybe your puff in your sleeve is too big. It's going to cost too much. Start
Yeah.
reducing because it's driven by price more now rather than a, wow, we've got to have it. So we
Yeah. The look.
slowly started seeing it. And then after that, I went to Limited Brands, which is huge American kind of stores. They had Express, Limited Stores, and Victoria's Secret, the most well known. And we weren't talking about waste then either. We were talking about let's design. Let's go and make more. Let's make more. We're in this whole like,
Mm.
wow, we've got to have that. We've got to have this. So for me, there was a good kind of 8-10 years when it wasn't on our radar. And actually, it was around when it got to 2008, when there was a big financial crisis. And I was like, I don't know what I want to do right now. I'm fed up of actually looking at the high street. No one was standing out for me. It's very much everyone was doing a version of another version of another version. And it
Yeah.
really was driven by
Regurgitation.
price. Absolutely. And we were like, I did it as well. It's like, well, I just bought my dress for £5. And didn't care really what it looked like. It's all about the price. Might as well just won £5 on your head.
Yeah.
And that's when it started to go, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but waste for me really was probably in the last 10 years now, waste. So, I mean, I kind of came in and out of the fashion industry, probably because I got bored of it, got sick of it. I couldn't see the creative side of it. I had a lifestyle change and moved to France. And it wasn't until the Rana Plaza crash happened that I had a big change of mind, 2013. And like over 1,138 women died that day. That I was
Yeah.
like, that I could not believe. I was like, come on.
Mm.
It was all about having fun and being expressive and things like that. Why are women dying for our clothes, essentially women? And then
Yeah.
2 years later, when True Cost came out, showing the environmental cost, the social cost, and Topshop went flashed on the screen. I was like, no.
Yeah.
And that to me is like kind of around 2014, 13, 14, 15 is when people started to really start talking about waste and this new word and on my radar, sustainability, that I was never even heard of before.
Yeah.
So it was a lot later on. But really, when you look back at it, like you're saying, it's probably when we were starting at Topshop, that's when the shift was starting to happen. We didn't know what it was. And yes, we were starting to manufacture in other countries and probably looking for price, but we didn't realise to what detriment it would be. Had no
Absolutely.
idea at all.
I mean, I remember when Debenhams shifted their production out of the UK and again to the East, the standards were very, very low then in terms of the fit, the quality. They weren't a match for the UK suppliers. But I think it's part of the journey, because when we look at the production standards coming out of the East today, they're extremely high. And actually, in terms of design, because of course, first of all, China became the world's factory, and now it's very much wanting to be very much at the helm design wise. And there is some great creative work coming out of China.
Yeah.
And in terms of that shift, we're now obviously at the start of another shift. And what I find really interesting is that having, if you like, peaked at the extent at which garments can be copied, products can be made quickly, cheap, pile them high, sort of stack them cheap, as it were, mentality. We're now really looking to be in the cusp or the cusp of a new period, which is back to details, back to quality, back to thinking about the brand as opposed to just the bargain, if you like.
Yeah.
And a really, really exciting time. So you moved to France and you became aware of the fact that there was essentially a problem to solve.
Yeah.
How did you decide it would be grape waste that you would turn into your materials?
Yeah. Well, even that was a journey as well, because I mean, to go back to exactly what you're saying, this kind of the change of time. And one other thing I'd love to add to what you're saying is emotion as well, because it was that we had real connections with our clothes before. You were so pleased to be wearing something. It made you feel brilliant. You loved it. And I think that emotion and that connection and that wanting to look after things is coming back and kind of go, oh, that is my favourite dress. Yes, I do feel great in it. I think that's slowly coming back. But I suppose in terms of how I got to kind of working with like grape waste, like I was saying, it's a long kind of path, because it's probably taken about 10 years or so. And that is, in the meantime, once I saw after True Cost, I was like, wow, we've got to do differently. This cannot carry on. And I did a program, London College of Fashion with the Kieran Group. They had a sustainability program, online program. I did that.
I remember that.
It
Yeah.
was brilliant. It was the Dilys Williams one. Amazing. And then I was like, right, you know what? I'm going to set up my own programs at the universities here, where I am in Aix-en-Provence. So I set up socially responsible and sustainable fashion before, again, everyone really knew what that was. For my local French university and then an American university as well. And I'm still teaching those today, plus what is French luxury today, and also looking at the supply chain in the Mediterranean to see what's here. So I teach those. But with that research, I was like, whoa, hold on. I saw there's an Ellen MacArthur quote at Future Fabrics, because I was still kind of going to shows and things, that said up to 95% of the environmental impact of a product comes from the materials.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, hold on. Even if you're a designer with the kind of the right mindset and the want to design
To do the right
better
things.
for the future, if you haven't got the materials, you haven't got the tools, we're never going to make it.
Mm.
So in my eyes, it's like, okay, we don't need another designer. I don't need to be designing more. But if I go back a little bit down the supply chain and can work on materials, then let's see how that goes.
Yeah.
And during COVID, when we were kind of locked in, essentially, I approached like my local vineyards and said, can I take some grape-waste? I want to see what I could do with agricultural waste, and
Yeah.
started experimenting in my kitchen.
Brilliant.
With kind of like, what was we doing with scobies from like to kind of bacterial kind of drinks and things like that, mixing those up together, see what we could create.
Love
And
it.
in the end, I mean, it's great experimental time. In the end, I did something that resembled a animal leatherish, maybe something.
Yeah. But you thought, I've got something here, something I can work on.
Yeah, let's get working on it. So I approached a university in Lyon. They're the only university in the world that work on animal leather. And I approached those scientists and I sent it to them, and they didn't fall off their chair laughing their heads off going, what is this? So I was like, okay, that's a good sign.
There's something interesting in this.
So we started researching with them, and that's how it's just kind of grown. So working with scientists, and then I got into a Fashion Revolution Accelerator program, which I was so proud of as well. We had to have material by the end of the program. So then I was like, okay, let's go to the other side. Let's go to industry. What can we do with the machines today? So that's how we kind of got working, kind of in between the science, the laboratories, the vineyards and the agriculture, and then also on the actual, can we make it with the machines of today? So
yeah. And it strikes me that this is an area where actually your background has come in really, and stood you in good stand, because in that process, you were coordinating a lot of different actors. You've got essentially, several parties that are absolutely critical to taking this idea from paper and into something which, one of the reasons I was so keen to have you kick off this series is because, having seen the journey of biomaterials over now decades, I was experimenting with this in my bedroom in 1994.
Hey.
Literally just with tanks and very, very rudimentary. But back then, the problem was about scalability, and it was, I could make something look very pretty and interesting, and I could make a concept dress out of it, but I definitely was not at the stage where I could have actually scaled that. When I look at your fabrics, I can see something that is literally, it's got industrial potential in terms of scaling, and it looks absolutely great. Sometimes when you look at biomaterials, although they might be very beautiful, they might be very interesting, the fact is they do look very exotic, they do look very different. And actually, the mainstream, they move quite slowly. They don't necessarily feel comfortable, as you know, with embracing something that is radically different from what they're used to. And when I look at what you create, unless someone were to say to me, oh, well, actually, this is made from grape waste, I would likely think it was leather, or I would think it was some other conventional material. And then I find out the backstory and I'm like, wow, this is incredible. So your background, having worked in the industry, I think is really pivotal in you being where you are today. Having got to this point where you've got these beautiful materials, and for the benefit of those that don't know them, that watch this recording, do look up Planet of the Grapes. One of the things that really stands out to me about the fabrics is the color. The colors are just sublime. Is that a product of the fact they're made of grapes?
Yes and no. So the actual colours are very dark, kind of really rich browns, which are really, really beautiful as well. And you can get some quite nice, more orangey kind of browns as well. And then the redder kind of colorway is kind of also made with like minerals as well to get up to that optimal kind of color to bring in the whole like wonderful richness of like the grape story. Um, so
And
it's a
just on
mix.
that, I'll
Yeah.
just interrupt you there, because something that a number of people don't realize about fashion is that dyes, some of the synthetic dyes are some of the worst environmental polluters. And because you've been so thorough and everything else, would have been right in saying that you've also looked into creating environmentally friendly dyes and colors.
Absolutely, and that's imperative as well. So that's been a hard, not a hard one as well. It's all been part of the jigsaw puzzle. To really think, how are we going to get any like colours in here? Like someone's asked us to work on a white right now, and I'm not really sure about it because I don't like what could be going into it.
Bleach and
That's not where I want to go. But we did do an amazing dyeing project actually with Lucy Tamam last summer, where we dyed up also cottons and silks with the grape waste too. So we were like, okay, and it was interesting to see the different colours that were coming out because of the materials and how maybe they were woven or they were twisted. So an array of pinks from really like pale pink to almost like deep purples. It's just stunning. And she showed those at London Fashion Week in September, and then they're just at Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week just right now as well. So that was really fascinating to get like the real colours out. So it's almost like, well, could we be dyeing there and then also making the kind of the biomaterials as well after? So it's all really using up this wonderful agricultural waste in so many different ways. And even to splinter out again off colour was that I worked out how to separate some of the seeds from the grape skins as well. And then we've worked with those to make beautiful soaps, like exfoliating soaps as well.
wonderful. And those are a byproduct of the process.
They're a byproduct of the process as well. So again, it's encapsulating that whole like you've got this incredible agricultural waste with so many different streams that it can be used.
You're not letting anything go to waste. It's like in many cultures of the world, if they, let's say, do slaughter an animal, they do use every single bit of it. There is this idea you mustn't let anything go, and that kind of mindset, on this, looking for every single opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really wonderful.
Yeah.
And to give me an idea, so at the moment, obviously, I've seen a stunning array of textiles that you've already developed. When do you think that a designer would be at the stage where they could go? I mean, today I know your average designer doesn't do what we would have done back in the 90s and pop down to Berwick Street in Soho to get
Yeah.
What they would do today is they probably would get samples off an online retail site and then order it online. When do you think you will be at the stage when, whether or not it's wholesale or it is small lengths, people can actually go online and buy lengths of your fabric?
Now, except I'm not taking it through online as such, it's through me. So sending an email, and what we've gone from now. So I suppose we started off like A4 sizes of the material. Then it went on to like what we call pre-production. So like a 45 centimeter width with a minimum of a 15 linear meter length. And then last year we actually did like an industrial production run. So I went down with my team down to Italy because we were producing there, and we did 150 centimeter width by 300 meters of our like grape-based biomaterial. And even there was just an aroma of like wine in the factory. It's just like it's unbelievable. And this is amazing. It creates our own smell for this
Oh, wow.
material. So it
Yeah,
was really exciting. So we've gone up to scale. It can be scaled. It has been done. So
I love that.
we've got that. So we've got it in a black colorway. We've got these wonderful wine colorways as well right now, and then changing the
Mm,
textures. We've got quite a nice sort of like designers working with the materials now.
yeah.
So it's possible now.
So if I pop you an email and I say, Sam, can I order enough to make a bag?
Go
It's
for it. Yeah.
possible.
You can make,
Brilliant.
we've just, done one order for like 1,000 pieces of, some products. Yeah.
Fantastic. And obviously, you've done a number of collaborations with designers already, which I
Yeah.
think is a wonderful idea. That is fabulous because it shows really, the applications of this product. And I've also noticed that you've done bags, you've done, I think, belts, you've done, haven't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Belts, dress. You've even done car seating, haven't
Yeah.
you? Car seating. They look fabulous.
Yeah, because we're like, well, if you can't drink drive, sit on it. So
Yeah,
you
I love
just do
it.
that.
That's wonderful. And do you see the collaboration route as being central to the development of Planners for the Grapes as it evolves?
Yes, and everyone that we've worked with so far has been very much a two-way process in terms of very like-minded. So let's say for the dress, that was done with a design duo called Felder, who are very sustainable and very conscientious about the materials they use. And they also work with Marigoni University in Miami. And it was all part of a competition that was set up with the UN Fashion Network as well. That this one designer called Ruslana, who her background was that she kind of grew up with her grandma going to her grandmother's vineyards. So she had a whole like link to the grapes that really resonated. Felder, they were all very much into sustainability. So it was a really nice collaboration there.
Mm,
Also, I suppose everyone that we've worked with so far has got some wonderful backstory that's very values driven. And I
yeah.
think that's really important because it's not just about churning out the material. Um, it's taking time, and it's those people who really are very conscientious and conscious and are making conscious decisions about the materials that they're using
Mhm.
and their design process that we're working with. And also, does
Yeah.
it work through a stone machine?
Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
it be color painted, edge painted? Can it cut like this, cut like that? It's you could do so much in a laboratory, and then working with
Mm.
designers is a totally different ballgame again. It's a different level. It's a different
Yeah.
experience and experimentation. So it's been wonderful to work with these designers.
Yeah. And by working with the designers, also, you're keeping your material right at the edge in that the designers are naturally going to innovate. They are going to experiment.
Yeah,
They are going to push it to the limits. This draws
absolutely.
me to one of the things I've noticed is I bought a number of the early fabrics which were alternatives to leather, principally for the ethical reasons, concerns of animal welfare. But I have noticed that over the years, whereas I've got one of my favorite pairs of shoes, they are Bruno Magli, and I bought them when I was 18 in a charity shop, and they were already vintage. So they're double vintage. And they're beautiful cream leather shoes. But I had another pair of shoes that I bought when I was 18, and I loved those shoes. And I did admittedly wear them to death, but they were made of a leather alternative. And a couple of years ago, I was wearing them to a dinner party, and I was just walking up my friend's drive, and they fell to pieces
Mhm.
because the synthetic leather did not last as long as a genuine leather. What do you see the life cycle of your material? How does it perform environmentally? How many years would you expect it to last as a product?
Yeah. So it's a really tricky question. Why is it a tricky question? One that I suppose like animal leathers have been around for thousands of years. They've got so many treatments. Um, And also, even at the end, up to like 45% of the leathers today have like kind of plastic coated finishes on as well to protect
Yeah.
them. I mean, an actual leather you can scratch with your fingernail like that. Not, because you might not want to, but it scratches. So you've got that side of it. These are like new materials. So you can do laboratory tests. Great. We've done abrasion tests, we've done flexion tests. That's getting fantastic results in there. Amazing, amazing results.
Brilliant.
Then, I've been using a bag for 2 years now. When I say that, every single day, I give it a bashing around. I'm not precious with it. I do like to sit at the table every now and again, not chucking it on the floor, but
Yeah.
as much a bashing as I can give it because
Mm.
I want to see
Road testing.
how it wears in real life as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, how do we move these materials on? Because of course people are nervous. How will it look
Mm.
like, in a few years' time, maybe?
Mm.
So hence doing these testings, we've had someone doing testings with shoes as well, get kids wearing them, jumping in puddles, climbing up trees. You can't be precious about it because that's the fastest way to get a really good reading on what happens.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also when we're thinking, it's so tricky because you're like, okay, it's got to be durable, it's got to last. But what does that actually mean in today's got to last? You're my idea. I've still got Topshop clothes from 30 years ago, and so my mum's still wearing them. So that's a long, long time. I've got a
Yeah.
coat that was my grand's. That was like 3 generations down. Yeah, when I had a conversation the other day with my students about how long is forever, because they're talking about a forever pair or something,
Mm.
it's months.
Yeah.
It's
'Cause
months.
that
So
to me, that's like you, because I've kept even my high street clothes in
there you go.
immaculate
Yep.
condition.
Yep. So it's that
Mm.
whole, what does forever actually mean now?
Mm.
And also, if let's say this whole trend for like, is it a trend? Is it something to stay? The whole second hand market's coming in. It's still
Yes.
that same mindset. Okay, wear it for a little bit, then flip it out, shove it in a second hand shop.
Yeah.
So it's got to be
Pop it on
reworn
vintage.
again, let's just say, I suppose. But it's going to be worn in a
Yeah.
different way. So it might not be
Mm.
something that lasts a long time in one person's wardrobe. Maybe it's
Mm.
lasting a long time through different people's wardrobes as well. So
Absolutely.
that's the durability bit, and that's where it's got to last for as long as it can.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And how, obviously, I know that with this domain, it can actually take quite a long time for the major luxury brands to cotton on to
mhm.
entry level and startups in this field. Um, how have you found the luxury end has responded yet? Would you say you have good visibility and they've been proactively keeping on top of startups like yourself that are, well, obviously I know you're a little down the line now, but young companies like your own, would you say they're on it, or would you say that you very much feel that they are still very much consumed with the more traditional way of working?
It's really hard to do like a blanket kind of answer. I think each one's, of course, you've got like, especially the French houses, you've got your LVMH, you've got your Kering, you've got your Chanel, Hermes. So we can't put them all under
Mm.
the big same
Mm.
sweeping statement. I think they're gigantic.
Yeah.
That means huge decisions have to be made that take very long times. And also, like
Mm.
we could see as well, happens all the time right now for the last probably decade or so. The creative directors that have been whipping through those kind of almost doors coming in and out
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
those
Not around for long.
brands is phenomenal. And each one has to make their mark.
Mm.
So someone could be like, right, we're all going down this route. Okay, this is it. We've got to pay a lot of attention in these new materials. The next person might come along tomorrow and go, no, stop, that's it. Bring
Yeah.
it in house. Let's experiment. So it's really, I think it's very hard to say. Like Hermes
Mm.
was working with some wonderful mushroom materials and things like that. They haven't come into fruition yet, but that,
Mm.
I don't know why, but the
Mm.
material I've seen it is stunning. It is stunning. So
Mm.
is it a performance thing? I don't know. But I
Mm.
think it's on their radars. The Kering Group's particularly good for sustainability. Um, and a real want there as well. But maybe, then you've got someone like Stella McCartney who's out on her own, who's always just been
Mm.
down her very independent. She's looking out for these alternatives.
Yeah.
So I, but I think coming from London as well, because we all saw street fashion going up as much as trends could come down from the catwalk, it goes in different ways. And I think a lot of the younger, newer brands that are coming in that are sincerely want new materials. They don't believe in like reptile skins being in the supply chain. I certainly don't.
Yeah, me
I
too.
think they're the ones who are going to pick up faster, want to experiment more, and can do it faster because they're just smaller. And
Yeah.
I think that's the way to get going. And I think they'll make progress faster.
Yeah. I mean, it strikes me that family run, mid level luxury goods brands would probably be a sweet spot for your product because they tend to be, yeah, be held privately. There tends to be relative autonomy in the decision making. And there are a lot of, I mean, great, mid level luxury brands in Italy, for example,
Yep.
that they may not be names that are as well known as, the Gucci's of the world, but they make exquisite products. And I can really see
Yes.
your materials,
Yeah.
working well with those brands.
Yeah. Absolutely. And getting involved in it as well. I mean, as
Mm.
much as, we're making these materials, but it's a very holistic part. And, I kind of can get involved in the design if someone wants me to, or help them with that as well. And I love that because it's kind of,
Mm.
that's a real co-creation as well. Not on all
Yes.
things, but working with a really
Yeah.
small French brand.
Mm.
Um, and I think it's so exciting to be kind of like, does that work, not work? How,
Yeah.
of course, it's their design, it's their identity, and I'm not treading on toes, not telling anyone what to do, but it's nice
Mm.
to be part of that creative
Yeah.
process as well to kind of move things on, for the better of the
Absolutely.
industry as well.
Well, also, you know the performance of your fabric so well, don't you? So,
Mhm.
it makes sense that you are involved in that process because with any kind of design, the performance of the fabric, how it's going to flex, the material properties, it's fundamental to how the design looks. And that's, I guess, because we're from that generation. When I was sourcing my collections, I would go and I would feel the fabrics, and I
Yes,
would
yes,
buy
yes,
sample lengths and
yes.
really, and I just can't imagine actually perceiving of a collection without working hands on with the fabrics because, it really affects, how well they move with the body, doesn't it? So,
Yeah, totally. And like you going back to like your Berwick Street Market, I mean, I was
mm,
really fortunate. And again, just shows, different like levels of education things. I mean, I did textiles from the age of
mm,
11 to 18. So
yeah,
we're like making clothes, the good old days to go to like a ball or something, which sounds crazy, but
yes,
like
yeah, I
corsets
understand
that we were
making your own
making and
ball
the
dress,
puff
yeah,
sleeves and the rustle of the taffeta, all these things. But it's all making of all of that as well and knowing how it
yeah,
goes through the machines and things. I mean, my gran taught
yeah.
me how to sew. I loved it. Mm.
Yeah, yeah, no, I've got my grandmother's sewing machine as well, so it's handing down those skills. When I think about the scalability, particularly for France, I mean, obviously, there are a lot of vineyards. There are a
Yep.
lot of
Oh,
vineyards.
yes. Yeah.
Now, obviously, there will be other potential applications for the waste. I mean, I'm thinking
Hmm.
bioenergy, among other things.
Yep.
But for example, in a nation like France, what percentage, let's say, and this might be a question that's a little too big to answer, but what percentage of France's vineyard waste could you see be used in the production of fabrics like yours?
That's a huge question. And I suppose, well, the first thing is that I think, what's it, over like 1.2 million tons per year is produced for grape waste in France alone.
Yeah.
Huge,
Wow.
huge, huge, huge. And a lot
Yeah.
of the time, it depends if it's organic or regenerative or
Mm,
conventional. The conventional has to go to a distillery. So then it gets distilled into like stronger alcohols. During COVID, it was gels and things like that. And then eventually, yeah, it could be biofuels. It could go back to being compost on the land. So there are lots of different applications, and you want that to carry on. I mean, you can't say, right, we're going to take it all, that's it, and turn
mm,
it all into material because it goes back to the start of what we were saying. you don't want to create more waste.
Exactly.
So it's kind of, just a small percentage of the vineyards. And we've got so many, here that we're just taking small percentage of it. So
Yeah.
it's, we definitely don't have any trouble with getting hold of raw materials. And, there's a whole
Mm.
conversation that people are drinking less wine today. Oh my goodness, and
Which is true. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
in the north of France and in Bordeaux, people are ripping up their vines because there is less consumption. Or
Mm.
is it because there's more wines all across the world? But for
Yeah.
that, I'm not worried about, because we don't need to have like
Big volumes.
big volumes of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank
And
goodness.
also, I mean, that's just France. There's obviously Italy and Spain. And I mean,
Yes,
I love the fact that you've got your raw material is so abundant. So
yes.
many places of the world. Have
Yeah.
you had vineyards from other places reaching out to you, like Chile, for example?
Not Chile, California we've had,
Yeah.
which would be really, really nice. That'd be amazing to work with one day. But for now, I'm kind of
Do you know,
focused on
I actually have a
Provence.
contact I can introduce you to.
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I
This is
do have
it. This
someone
is
I can
what
intro you
happens.
to.
Yeah, amazing. So
Yeah, let's set
definitely.
California up.
Yes, 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 please. And then it was traveling over there as well.
Mm.
And I think, well, Provence is wonderful because, like, let's say one of the vineyards that we're working with, it was the first vineyard in France to have the vines planted by the Greeks coming into the
My
port of
God. Oh, I
Marseille and
love the
planting. So we're like,
provenance.
yeah, but the history of it all is
That's
phenomenal. So you turn
incredible.
up, you've got
Yeah,
these Greek statues as a homage to them all. Um,
incredible.
it's incredible. So you're like, that's heritage,
Mm.
that's craftsmanship. Those people who've had these families have had vineyards going for centuries, for generations.
Yeah.
And I think it's what I love about the French vineyards for now, being biased because I'm here,
Mm.
is it's that the know-how that's been passed on through the generations, the craftsmanship. And for me, taking away the great waste or the great mar is a respect to that as well. Because we've worked
Mm.
with the vineyards throughout the year. I do a harvest with some of them as well. Turn up
Love it.
early in the morning, get the grapes and kind of helping crush them all in all the
Brilliant.
presses and things. So really hands on, because
Mm.
if you want to know where your raw materials are coming from, it's wonderful to be in there, literally head in the press.
You are. Well, that's very much
Working with it all.
that's speaking to William Morris, and from his philosophy of how we should be building a sustainable world. He had this notion that you should be spending part of your day very much hands-on, as it were, working the land, and then
Yes,
you would get on with your more cerebral activities. So I love the idea of, going out actually harvesting the grapes.
yes,
And that must be so exciting, because you're
yeah.
literally thinking, great, I'm going to be, I'm going to make fabric out of these.
I
And that
love
could
it.
end up on a
Absolutely love it.
runway
Yeah.
for a top brand.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
wonderful.
And the vineyards. I mean, Philippe, who I work with, he's got a gorgeous vineyard kind of near the Saint Victoire, which is this wonderful big mountain here. When I first asked her, can I come along and have some grape-waste? It's just like, okay, mad English girl. That's it. It's like, whatever. Yeah, oui, d'accord. And now, I'm helping him do his harvest every year,
Yeah.
part of their harvest team.
Do you know, I
So,
just had a thought there. I went to Sicily. They have holidays there where you can go and you can stay on a farm, and they make all of the
mm,
produce. And then I did a cookery course, Sicilian cookery course. And then obviously when you eat your dinner, it's everything that's grown on the farm. I'm now seeing the
mm.
future of sort of
Yes.
training in fashion. You go
Yes.
to the vineyard, you're actually on the farm getting
Yes.
the raw materials.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why we did like a little fashion walk or a catwalk in the vineyards where we get the grapes from.
Yeah,
And I just think if, any fashion design that we work with, we're more than happy to take them to the vineyards to go and see where the grape waste is coming from, try out the wine.
wonderful.
And I think, it goes back to that whole, when I was saying like emotion and connecting to your materials and your clothes again, it's not just a wham bam, thank you, man, another
No.
material. It's encapsulating, like, here, beautiful Provence, and all the work that has gone into the vines, and the preparation of the grape mar, it's all done in Provence, and then it goes to Italy to be actually made, but it's all like
Mm,
within a 500-kilometer radius.
it's
um
wonderful. And you've got very low air miles there, because from your source of your raw material to the production of the material, and then actually in terms of, let's say this was going into a couture house, obviously you would have, let's say for Chanel, you would have a lot of their studios would actually again be back in France or would be
Yeah.
quite local. So you're
Yeah.
really cutting down the air miles as well as
Absolutely.
actually, yeah, you've got a highly sustainable. I mean, even though I know that obviously climate change is impacting on obviously all plants, including grapes, but
Yeah.
you nonetheless know that for a period of time you've got a highly sustainable source material, and so it's just a whole story. It's a really, really wonderful story, and I'm sure I just see so much potential in what you're doing.
Oh.
And it's wonderful. And also, of course, so you're working in universities, you're working with young people. So, as this is World Futures Day, and we're coming to the end of this now, when you're working with your students, what are the sort of things that they are saying to you about what their hopes are for the future?
Oh gosh, well, it's cutting out a little bit. I think I kind of got that, but I think
What is-
some it
I'll
depends.
repeat it. When you're
Yeah,
working with students,
yeah.
when you're working with your students, what are their hopes and dreams for the future of fashion?
I think it's a real mix. In a kind of the socially responsible, sustainable fashion, they're very aware of what is happening, especially with social media and like the whole landfills and seeing what's going on and the disaster side of it all. Um, but there's a real want to do something different about it. They kind of hear we're Gen Z, we get told we're lazy and we don't do it like you did, and this and that. They've got a different mindset, and I said to
Mm,
them the other day, that's what we need though. There's hardly like joy right now. Where we've got to now.
mm,
And we do need a
yeah.
different mindset to come through. And we do need a different vision. So come on, let's go. And of course it's not that easy, but I really do try to
Mm,
give them hope. And they were asking the other day kind of where do they look for the future, for the positivity, especially with like AI and things like that coming in. And I'm like, for me, it's human connections. I said maybe they're going to meet, their future business partners or something like that, spark off an idea here at university now. Who knows? But it's the human connections and the desire to want to change, not just change for any old reason, but to have that incentive to make it a positive kind of future, because we're going to live it, they're going to live it, and hopefully on to the next generation, next generation. So it's to really give that whole kind of looking out, I suppose, and seeing all these different ways that they can really contribute. I mean, yesterday, I just came back with them last night, actually. I took a group up to Paris for 2 days to look at what is French luxury today. So we do like a tour of the big brands, but actually looking into what's the story behind each of those brands.
mm,
Why are they doing what they are doing? Why is that store placed in front of that store? What's it all about? And then kind of look off at again the museums or kind of food, but looking at the craftsmanship and really
yeah.
going back to really looking at what has got into that wonderful, small, delicious meringue cake that you're about to eat that was inspired by Marie Antoinette.
Yes.
Um, but it's all wonderful because it's all just kind of, it just deepens things. And I
Mm,
think, also on a stage where, they're on social media and it's zap, 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 zap. I think they're really loving taking time out and really seeing the depths and what they can do and what
yeah.
is possible. So
The thing about the cakes, because in France there are particularly exquisite cakes. I mean, even if you go down to your standard supermarket, they are works of
incredible.
art. And you do feel that it's a privilege to actually be able to consume these. It feels almost like a ritual, doesn't it? The fact
Yep.
that you and to be able to actually cut into these exquisite creations, it's something special. And I think
Yep.
that is what fashion at its best should feel like. It should
Yes.
feel something,
Yep.
that is a privilege, and that is not just functional. It's not
Yep.
just, but it enhances, it doesn't it? It enhances your
Yep.
quality of life
Yep.
and your experience. So I'm just going to wrap this up. We've got just a couple more minutes because we started slightly late due to some tech glitches. Now, one of the things I always do with these biofutures is at the end, I ask you for what your vision of the future of your field is. Now, it's World Futures Day, so I think we'll set the timeline a little bit out. Let's say by mid-century. Sam, by mid-century, where do you see the arena that you are working? What's it going to look like? What's it going to feel like?
Good question. Wow, that far out. I mean, we're in such volatile times. It's so unpredictable, isn't it? Once upon a time might be able to forecast what would happen in 10, 15, 50 years. It's so different now. But what I hope is that not everyone's going to change to new biomaterials. We've already got the contrast kind of between, the faster fashion one side and the haute couture the other side. It's so split. But I really do hope, and I really believe that new materials coming through now. Yes, there are blips. Some move to the wayside, some haven't, but that's part of this wonderful new path where new materials are going to be coming in. So I think there will be a whole side where people will slow down. People will become more kind of like respectful for their food they're eating, that's grown nearby to them maybe, and respect for our clothes, and definite a slowdown there, and maybe more self-sufficient as well. And maybe then on the other side, it's kind of the really fast going along.
Frantic, but hopefully recycled frantic.
Hopefully.
Reinvented.
Yeah. And I think we need to slow down and take into account of, what nature's offering us and stop overusing. And just really keeping within planetary boundaries. Yeah, I think, and slowing down. And hopefully we'll have some beautiful things out there.
Here's to that. Well, one of my wishes, I want to come down to the vineyard with you.
Yes, please.
Source the fabrics and bring my sewing machine.
Wonderful.
Sewing machine.
Yes.
And we'll co-create something.
I love it. We'll sit outside and sew together. Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, it'd be great. Well, it's been such a pleasure. We've been meaning to have a conversation like this for a long time, but we will doubtless be having more of these.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for making the time today. And just the best of luck with what you're doing. I really think it's exciting. And I have no doubt that there's a very, very bright future for Planet the Grapes.
Oh, thank you so much. What a wonderful conversation, and see you down here soon.
See you soon.
Take care. Bye.